are very busy and have crazy hectic days. So the fact that you can be here with us is very much appreciated. We plan to be here for about an hour, about 11:45. The students that you see here are here on their own free will. They'd love to hear from you and your careers and what you do and how you got started and where you see yourself a couple years from now and all the great questions that they may have as young people, because we do have some gentlemen in the room. One gentleman, thank you, Jimmy. They are young teenagers who are mostly, who you see here, are freshmen and sophomores. We do have a few seniors, though. And we have hand-chosen our panelists based on the desires of certain careers of our students. So our students were asked, well, what kind of careers are you interested in? What kind of speakers would you like to hear from? And they mentioned your professions. So you are hand-chosen based on the needs and interests of our students. So thank you again. So students, what we are going to do and why you are here is, again, to have our panelists as your mentors. Some of you are going to hear about careers that you may be interested, that you may be kind of never thought of before, but might want to pursue. And we all started somewhere, right? So I started as a college student majoring in criminology, wanted to be an FBI agent, then became a high school teacher, and now I'm with Steps to Success. So your path and where you go may stray and may change, but the point is that we all need a path. We all need a career, we all need a trade, and we all need something to pursue, right? Either during high school to get your feet wet, kind of dabble in different internships that you might be interested in. Some of you have already and will this summer. And then after high school into college, more internships, more opportunities, and then, of course, after college. But just remember that after this is over, my purpose for this is for you to keep in touch with these women so that you can have them as your mentors. You can ask them these questions, okay? Because it's never too early to start thinking about your career and what you want to do, especially for you seniors and juniors in the audience. I know there's a couple of you guys. It's right around the corner, guys, where you have to start really thinking about what you may want to concentrate in, okay? So I'm going to have, we have a girls mentoring group here with Steps to Success. And our girls group, they're all on this side, actually. And they are going to introduce each of you. And then after they introduce you, they will one by one ask you the questions. Panelists, we ask that you keep your responses to about 2 to 3 minutes. We have 5 questions that each of you will answer. Okay? Ladies?
Good morning. My name is Yamanuchi Estiman, and I'm going to introduce Lee Makiska Gardner. She directed over 70 productions, which of 25 had been the world premieres. She has a bachelor's in fine arts from Georgia Mason University. She masters of fine arts from the Catholic University of America, taught as a guest artist at a variety of universities, and she earned the Elliott Northern Award of Outstanding Lead Actor and received 3 Helen Haynes nominations for Outstanding Direction.
Hi, I'm Naomi James, and I'll be introducing Suzanne Grassa. She's a child life instructor at Wheelock and a child life specialist at Boston Children's Hospital. She teaches undergraduate students child life courses. She interacts with children and families in the medical setting. She also uses play to normalize the hospital environment to children and explain procedures. She answers parents' questions about behavior and adjustment after departure. Suzanne supports the child and family before and after the procedure. She has a bachelor's in biology and pre-med from Holy Cross and a master's in child life from Wheelock.
Hi, my name is Diana Rosa, and I'm introducing Sandra. Tell me if I'm wrong on your last name.
You got it.
McBoyd?
McAvoy. Yeah.
McAvoy?
You're so
Okay.
close.
So as a, I'm sorry, now I'm getting nervous. I was like, oh. So as a associate director of the I can't say this word, Consortium on Gender Security and Human Rights at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, preparing a book manuscript that documents Loyalist women's participation in paramilitary organization in Ireland during the 30-year conflict in the country. Bachelor's in philosophy, I can't say philosophy, from University of San Diego. Bachelor's in English from University of San Diego. PhD in Women's and Gender Studies from Clark University.
Hi, I'm Swan Kazu. I'm going to be introducing Danielle Salve. Am I saying that correctly?
Sauvé.
Salve. Danielle is a Quebec-born sculptor and installation artist based in Boston area since 2001. She received her BA in Visual Arts from Laval University in Quebec and her MFA at Concordia University in Montreal. Danielle's work has been exhibited widely in galleries and museums throughout Canada, the US, and as well as internationally. She has created permanent public art installations and has pieces in the permanent collections of several Canadian museums. She currently has sustained a studio practice at Bates Art Center Studios and is a member of the Cambridge Public Art Commission.
Hi, I'm Grippy Estime, and I'll be introducing Maria S. Amaya Luigi, she's an executive director at La Louisiana Hispania Incorporation. She was born and raised in Colombia, South America. She has a bachelor's of science degree in bacteriology. She has a master's degree in public health from Boston University. She is a member of organizations such as Greater Boston Latino Network and Latinos Represent.
Hi, I'm Christina Lima. I will be introducing Akila Johnson. She's a Boston Globe reporter covering 2016 presidential elections and national politics. She always keeps an eye on the untold of underreported stories. She is also a graduate of the University of Miami.
Hi, I'm Abby Jane, and I will be introducing Sarah Lefebvre, author, editor, and cultural critic. Published in the New York Times, the Harvard Business Review, the New York Review of Books, Vogue, and Glamour. She lectures and teaches workshops about women in the workplace and leadership. She earned her bachelor's degree from Princeton University, earned her master's degree from Boston University, and she's a founding faculty member of the Heinz College Negotiation Academy for Women.
Hi, my name is Amy, and I'm introducing Cassie Hatchett. Casey Hatchett, crime analyst, police officer for Brookline. Gathers criminal activity and looks for trends and patterns. Vice President of the Massachusetts Association of Crime Analysts. Treasurer of Jennifer A. Lynch Committee Against Domestic Violence. Bachelor's in Political Science from Boston University. Master's in Criminal Justice Administration from Western New England College.
Great, thank you, ladies. Thank you so much, and welcome to all our panelists. So I want to have our first question asked, and Yama will ask our first question to our panelists.
So, can you please describe your career and what your typical day looks like for you?
We can start at the ends and work our way around.
This end?
Yes.
Okay. So my typical day is varied, and I love it. I'm in my dream job. So most of the early parts of my day, I meet with other faculty members and students to talk about what kinds of courses they might like to take, what kinds of courses we might like to develop, because our program in political science is new at the college, at Wheelock College. I get an opportunity to talk with students about what they want to be when they grow up and what skills we need to help develop in their college education to help them get there. Then usually in the evening I have more meetings and I talk with more people about the ways in which we might be able to develop their program in ways that will allow them to develop into the people they want to be. So I teach, I have lots of meetings, and I get to develop a program in political science, which is really exciting and pretty innovative in the city.
For me, everybody knows I'm Maria. People call me Mary Soul. So working in a non-profit as La Alianza Hispana is never a typical day. So we never know what is coming for the next day. As soon as we wake up, we don't know what is going on. Well, usually we had a lot of meetings. We had to take a lot of decisions really fast. We had to look for new possibilities, and we solve issues. And the decision that we take, a decision that are not only impacted the agency, but also impacted the whole community. So that is what we do. Beside the work, because beside working every day, taking decision, meeting, reading emails, that is typical what you do, read a lot of emails too. Yeah, because they are bombarded by email, everybody. So is also the other part of the typical days is the personal life. We also had a personal life beside our jobs.
That's great.
I'm Lee. I'm with the North Theater Company, which is in Central Square. My title is Artistic Director, and that means different things, different days. Part of what I do is there are shows that I act in professionally. There are shows that I direct. In fact, we have a show opening tonight that I'm directing. And again, there's no typical day. There are certainly meetings. There's my talking to artistic teams. I read scripts all the time. I see plays as much as I can when I'm not working. I'm in rehearsal 6 to 8 hours a day when I'm in production. I do these kinds of things, or I talk about the work we do. And you said, the personal life. It's really important because I'm never really not on the job. I'm always sort of on the job. So when I take a day off or when I take vacation, I still have my phone on me. But it's a lot of it is sort of understanding time management so that I know how to pace myself throughout the day or throughout the week, and I know when I need my own personal time so I can be better at what I do during the day.
So I'm Sarah, and I think of my primary identity as a writer. So many days I'm at my desk writing, managing my career because I'm self-employed, managing my family because I have kids. But a lot of days I'm also at airports, or I'm at colleges, universities, corporations, women's professional association meetings talking about my work. So I've written these 2 books about women and negotiation and how important it is for women and girls to ask for the things they deserve, the things they've earned, the things they want, which women don't do as much as men do and suffer, don't make nearly as much money in their careers, don't get to have the job opportunities they want, don't get promoted as fast as men, don't rise as high. So because of these books, I get invited to give talks and to also do training workshops for women about how to be better negotiators. So I'm either at home in jeans and a t-shirt, or I'm on the road, dressed in business clothes, talking to professional folks.
Hi, I'm Susanna. I'm a certified child life specialist, and I currently my title is as an education and program coordinator at Boston Children's Hospital. And that is my full-time job, although my part-time job in the evenings is to teach all about what I do in my full-time job to college students at Wheelock College. And similar to what my fellow panelists have said thus far, I do go to meetings. Can't get away from it, do have to check on the emails. But as a child life specialist entering into the field, our primary role is to work with children and families and children of all ages, help them through that transition of being outside the hospital and suddenly being admitted into a hospital or healthcare environment, and then help them transition back home and really normalize that environment. So our days, because hospitals pretty much never close, there's always something going on in a hospital. And our role is really to help support the child, and that could be going to a procedure and helping to teach them what to expect before that procedure, helping that parent understand what's going on. We manage all the playrooms, so a lot of our work is through play, and we use child development and play to really connect with the child and the family. And in doing so, we help remind our colleagues in nursing and our physician colleagues and all the members of the multidisciplinary team to remember their children first and their diagnosis and whatever led them to enter into the healthcare environment is a piece of what their experience is with their children first. We get the term play lady a lot, because we do use play as that communication and teaching opportunity for kids and families. And I get this all the time too. You have the best job. All you do is play all day. But we remind people it's play with a purpose. And that on the positive side of playing with children, we also have the really tough job of helping a child and their family deal with death and dying. And that's kind of the tough piece. So we always have a balance, and every day is different, without a doubt.
Hi again, I'm Casey Hatchett with the Brookline Police Department, and similar to my fellow panelists, like a typical day, there is no typical day in law enforcement. In my current assignment, I am working as the department's crime analyst. I'm assigned to the Community Service Division, and that could mean any number of things on any given day. So I usually start my morning, I come in, read my emails and see if there's anything critical that needs to be addressed, and then I delve right into our reports to see what's happened in the last 24, 48 hours, try to figure out if there's any type of crime pattern that's emerging, and if there is, really delve into that data to figure out if there's, a particular MO or location, a hotspot, something that we can zero in on, and so that we can put together a product like a bulletin for our officers to better direct their day-to-day operations. Right now we're tracking a spike in bike thefts. So if you have a bike, make sure you have it locked up. And actually you're in the middle of our hot spot right here because a lot of them are happening around the high school. So in addition to crime analysis, I actually work on a variety of different programs. I do a lot of emergency preparedness work. I coordinate some programs within the community, our community emergency response team. And, for instance, yesterday we were hosting a graduation for 16 new CERT members. Totaling now we have 225 members in our community that are trained to come out and work with law enforcement and fire service and public health if there's some type of crisis in our community. We do a lot of work with community groups, a lot of education with our community about what we do. I do a lot of social media. It's a very difficult and challenging time for law enforcement in our country right now. It's a difficult time for our entire country, and in particular in my profession, we're feeling a lot of strain with our community relations, and so there's a lot of work being done to try to share our mission, work with our community, have a lot of community engagement, and being in the community service division, that's something that I feel very happy to be a big part of. When I'm not teaching, also the work-life balance. I have 4 children, pretty active kids, and I do a lot of volunteer work. I'd like to just stress, it hasn't been talked about yet. It's really important to give back to your community and be part, of the larger society. And I co-chair the Brookline Commission for Women. I don't think that's, and that's probably moving.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Was just like,
And I have 2 phones. I turned one off and turned the other one back on. I apologize for that. As an emergency responder, I always have my 2 phones with me. You never know what your day is going to involve, and so I can come in the morning and be working on a bike theft pattern bulletin, and then later in the day be, opening up a shelter for fire victims, or responding to a call. My day is very unlike most patrol officers who do come in and ride around in a patrol car responding to, any number of emergency calls that we get day to day. So I do a very different job than most of my colleagues, although in law enforcement you will start with that day, or that night I should say, because you would start on a midnight shift and be in a patrol car and be responding to calls. But just back to volunteerism and being part of the community, for me it's been really rewarding to be part of the community as a police officer, but also as a volunteer, and to do programs that help support and promote the community in ways that are different. So that's my typical day.
I'm Akila. I'm a reporter with the Boston Globe, and I like to tell people I tell stories for a living, which quite often makes people think that I write for a soap opera, but I don't, because that's what my grandmother referred to, her stories. So my day is, I check email, but I also check Twitter and Facebook and Snapchat, and if there's a social media app, I check it because, believe it or not, that's where a lot of information is shared nowadays. So I cover presidential politics right now, so my days could be anything from talking to presidential candidates like Bernie Sanders and interviewing them and talking to them about their policies, to high school students, talking to you all about what is important to you, where you want the direction of the country to go to, who you're supporting, who you're not supporting, college students, grandparents, parents, you name it, I speak to them. I don't like to sit in the office. I avoid meetings like the plague. So I quite often come up with a reason not to be in the newsroom, not to have to sit in a meeting, and that usually involves being out doing interviews and being in the community and talking to people. And because I cover national politics, I could be here in Massachusetts, I could be in Michigan, where I've gone. I could be in Florida, which I did not get to go to, unfortunately. New Hampshire. I could be, I could be anywhere, kind of at a moment's notice. So, I mean, I don't have a go bag, but you just always kind of have to be on the road and be willing and ready to go where the story takes you. And that's part of the reason I love my job so much, is because you never know who you're going to interact with and the really interesting people you're going to meet on a day-to-day basis.
So I'm Danielle Sauvin, and I'm a visual artist, and it's really part of my deep identity to see myself as a creator and a visual artist. Although sometimes I have to balance many aspects of it. So is there a typical day? I would say that I need to establish a sense of ritual, even if I teach, if it's a teaching day or if it's a studio day. For me, it's really what kind of create a link between because I'm always, all my activity involves some sense of research, so and auto-discipline. So if I have classes, I really have to prepare and to question results and kind of see what will be stimulating for my students and how can I put them on a path that will stimulate their creativity. And it's really something that interests me a lot, the creative process and how you start with zillions of ideas and how your role as a teacher is to kind of try to give shortcuts to open the zone of creativity for my students and to get out of the chaos, and also to think about the artistic projects or the artistic kind of energy as something that is a reflection on the world surrounding you. So it's very connected to your daily life, to your philosophical point of views, also social, and your role in the society, and how to combine that in your creative process. So I'm teaching at college level at BU and at MassArt part-time, and I'm a visual artist, so I have a studio also. So some days I spend days at school or at home preparing things for school. Some days I go to the studio and do my own research, and it's always a combination of that. Plus, I have a family, so I feel like there's kind of three very important components in my life, and they all feed in each other. So it's the way I see my routine, or which is not really a routine.
When you were a teenager, what were your
perspective, career goals? What led you to this position?
Danielle, we can start with you.
Okay, so when I was a teenager, I would say I had a rocky path for a while, and then when I began to be really focused, I became a very motivated student. So I had many paths. I was very interested in social studies, history, and I was also very successful in math. I always see geometry like a physical play or something that kind of helped me to see the world and the depth and the understand interesting problems. So for me, it was always a very playful approach. So when I had to decide what to do with my life, I was just like, but I was very good in art. And so with discussion with people around me, and I felt I could combine those interests if I start to study art. But I didn't know what I would do with that. I just went in art because I really deeply love it, and I felt I could kind of merge different interests in it. And I was also very interested in history, so I said maybe I will go in history, or art history and everything, or other kind of administration of art, or I was not sure, but I got supported as an artist, and it just put me on the path, and so.
I actually did not want to be a journalist when I was your age, which was, like 5 years ago? I wanted to be a marine biologist, and I was determined that I was going to swim with the fish, and I was going to track the mating patterns of sea turtles and put cameras on them, and I had this whole life planned out for myself So I grew up in the Midwest, so I always had this fascination with the ocean. And I got to college, and that plan exploded directly in my face. I hated chemistry, I hated science, I hated everything that had to do with the thought of marine sciences. I still love the water, but all the work that actually went into doing it, I wanted no parts of. So then I had to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And I had an amazing English professor who kept pushing me and saying, maybe you should write for a living. I was kind of a science nerd in high school and could barely string together a few sentences, so I thought she was crazy, and she just kept pushing. I had her my entire freshman year, and she kept saying, maybe you should think about writing for a living. Maybe you should think about writing. Maybe you should think about English. And at the University of Miami, students in the College of Communications can double major, so I double majored in English and journalism. At the time, I thought, well, maybe if I decide to fall back in love with the idea of being a marine biologist, I can do marine science and journalism, but that never happened. So I ended up doing English, journalism, and it was just kind of a bit of a blessed path from there. But it took until the end of my freshman year, beginning sophomore year, junior. It took a while. I enjoyed college before I really kind of dug my heels in.
So growing up, I always wanted to be a lawyer. That I always wanted to work as like an assistant district attorney, and I had a very strong sense of fairness and justice, and was very interested in being a lawyer. Went to BU, I studied political science. And I actually was sitting where you are at a panel listening to female professionals talk about different career paths. And one of the panelists talked about her career as a law enforcement officer. And she was currently sitting as a Secretary of Public Safety and had worked for the Boston Police and the Met Police and then at the State Police. She rose to the second highest position there. And I was so impressed with the work she had done and hadn't really considered criminal justice or law enforcement as a career option. I was really focused on law school and was actually working for the Bar Association at the time. And I sent her a letter after. This is actually when we had to send letters because there was no email. That's how long ago it was. And just said, I was really interested to learn more about, careers in criminal justice, that I hadn't considered that, and maybe that was an area of policy I would like to work in. And she actually responded and had me come in, and we met for about an hour, and we talked about my interest, and she talked about her history. And then 2 days later, she invited me to come on her staff as a speechwriter. So I actually worked as a speechwriter and a policy analyst for about a year and a half at the Secretary of Public Safety in the Governor Weld and Cellucci administration, which was quite a long time ago. And during my time working for her, I was so impressed with the work she had done, because I was kind of serving as her voice, pulling together, some of this great work she had done in her communities around domestic violence and introducing technology to law enforcement. I was so inspired. I actually took our police exam. My parents thought I was crazy, and we still joke I kind of went from cashmere to Kevlar. I went to the police academy thinking I would just try that and see if I liked it. And 18 years later, I'm about to celebrate my 18-year anniversary of going into the profession. So. You never know where you may end up after today.
As I said, I was a child specialist. I had no idea this field even existed because, when I was your age, I was absolutely convinced, because I was a science gal too, I was convinced I would be a pediatrician. There's no doubt about it. No question in my mind. My pediatrician, I thought he was a rock star. He's awesome. So that was what I was going to do. Got accepted to college as a bio pre-med major because I loved the bio. And I really loved it. I kept loving it until I was trying to embrace organic chemistry. And then I kind of liked it at first because it was like a game. It was like a puzzle. So it started off as kind of cool. And then by midterm, I'm kind of losing its effect. And then by the end, I'm like, why do I need this? I want to work with little children. I want to help the little children. I don't want to know how to make aspirin. I had no interest, absolutely no. But I stuck with it because I thought it would be helpful. And I thought, well, what else could I do? And I took an education course. So I thought, oh, well, maybe I'll teach biology to high school students. So, and I took a class while still being a bio major. And we had to present a class to our class. I still loved science. So, I don't know if you guys still do in science the fetal pig dissections. I thought that was awesome. I thought, why wouldn't everyone think it was awesome? So that was my presentation. Couple of people got sick. So I realized, not everyone has my passion. So what else could I do? Because I still wanted to combine science and health with children, but I wasn't sure if being a doctor was what I wanted to do, because the more I researched, they weren't spending as much time with the children as I wanted to spend with children. I did some research as an undergrad, and I liked it, but then I found myself, I would take all the students, because I was an RA in college, I would take them on field trips to my lab. And I'm thinking, okay, still, this is not connecting, because it's not enough. I really like that person to person. So I took a year off and spent some time in the Jesuit Volunteer Corps working with inner city kids and kind of get some time to think about it. And I share that because sometimes you need some time to step back to really think, where do I want to go, and really research a little bit more what you want to do. And totally by accident, I found Child Life in a book about what kind of programs I could find, because as a senior in college, I took a course at the UMass Medical School in epidemiology and public health. And I thought, oh, that might be nice. And I could focus on children and families. So I thought, I'll do a master's in that. Well, it turns out on the same page of programs with public health, there was this thing called Child Life. I'm like, oh, what's this? An interesting title. And I researched more about what this was, to work directly with children in a very child-focused manner, but I could still work with families, still work with doctors and nurses from a different perspective. And I think I'm on my 28th year. After 20, it starts to blur. And I can't imagine not doing it in some way, shape, or form. I'm more in an education and administration perspective, but now I can teach others, and I still have that interaction back and forth.
Great. So I was always going to be a writer. I wrote my first book when I was 6. But I wanted to be a fiction writer. I actually got my master's degree in creative writing, but nobody will pay you to write a novel. So I had to get some jobs, and I got one job researching the careers of women in the sciences, and I got to travel all over the country interviewing scientists, which was fantastic for someone who was interested in women's lives. I had another job working in a management consulting firm. And I'd always been really interested in women's lives and careers. My mom was a full-time working journalist when I was growing up, which was not that common when I was a kid. I grew up in a period when women's opportunities to work were changing a lot and opening up. So I just brought together this storytelling piece and the women's piece, and I met Linda Babcock, who is an economist at Carnegie Mellon, who had a particular interest in women's opportunities and women's, the things about our culture which discourage women from negotiating. And so I really liked her research, and I could bring something to it. I could interview a lot of women about their careers, and we decided to write these books together. And the piece that surprised me, the writing piece was always going to be there. The piece that surprised me is that when our first book came out, I started getting invited to go speak about it and to do training. And so I discovered that I'm actually pretty good at that, and people wanted me to do that. So that piece was the piece that I really didn't anticipate, that turned out to be quite rewarding, because I get to go and talk to women and give them tools that can actually change their lives in important ways.
So I started doing theater when I was in 6th grade, and I never looked back. It's absolutely what kept me going through high school, through a very hard family life. My parents were both terminally ill, along with being alcoholics in my teenage years. They died when I was in my early 20s, both of them within a couple of years of one another. And theater was what I did, and this is in hindsight. At the time, I don't think I could have said this. Theater is what I did to keep me sane, and to keep me social, and to keep me connected to people in a healthy way, and to, in many ways, escape this home life. It's what I did in high school, although I also did journalism in high school, but I didn't end up taking that path. And it's what I trained for in college, and I was actually still in college when I started to work professionally. I spent 25 years in Washington, D.C., and then moved up here just a couple of years ago. I was a freelance actor and director, which meant that I never knew what job was coming when. I never knew who was going to hire me. I just took it on faith that I got better and that I would be hired and I would always have work, and that has absolutely proved to be true. As I got a little bit older, doing those two things, which I still do, became not enough. I had bigger plans, I had bigger ideas, I had a bigger voice as an artist, and so I started to do theater management, working in management in theater until this artistic director job came along, and I landed here in this area.
Okay, when I was teenager, I had the dream to save the planet. So I say, what else you can do to save the planet? So there are a lot of diseases around, and still in this moment hurting a lot of people, like cancer. So I decided I went to study microbiology. So I want to help everybody in the planet. So I went there, I studied chemistry, a lot of biology, a lot of involved with the micro work. It's completely different, it's really powerful, it's really amazing, don't get me wrong, it's fantastic to see it, but when you spend hours and hours and hours looking up, just in one room by yourself with a lot of microorganisms, they are just working. After a while, I just start to get tired. I say, I need some communication with the real people and work, because that is taking too long to be able to save and help people. So I decided to go and say, okay, so I'm coming from a country where they had a lot of needs. I say, okay, I'm going to Boston to study a master in public health, to help people for prevention and education, and how to prevent and educate people about diseases, so there is a lot of help. So I went to study, but I did my master degree. So when I realized, I start to look, the Latino community in Boston and Massachusetts in general in this country has a lot of incidents, a lot of issues, a lot of needs, not only about diseases, but also in a lot of service they need. There's a lot of people that come to this country who don't speak the language, they don't know where to do, they don't know how to navigate the system, they don't have house, they don't have food, they just coming with the hope they get at the dream, the American dream to be better, to be able to work, to be able to give a possibility to own family. Many people come here to be able to send money to their own country so they can feed the kids. So I saw all the needs. I said, okay, so I start working as an Alianza Hispana, start working as a health educator, educate people about different issues. HIV was really big in that moment, about lead poisoning, a lot of issues about prevention. After that, I moved to a director at the whole, and then I moved as a executive director at the agency. When I started as a teenager, I never saw myself talking in front of camera. I don't like to talk with a lot of people in front or being at big meetings talking. I consider myself really shy, but sometimes you have to do it, so you have to be a little bit conscious that you can do it. So it's just put it and set up your mind that you are able to do it what really you love. And so you love to be there helping your people, helping your community, so you will do it. And you do it really with a lot of satisfaction.
That's great. When I was younger, I wanted to be an attorney. I knew that's what I was going to be. I grew up in San Diego, where it's sunny all the time, and wanted to work with immigrant populations. My mom and dad immigrated to the United States in 1959, and we were always quite aware of the experience of immigrants. And in San Diego, a great number of immigrants, especially as I was growing up, were Mexican, and now Mexican Americans. And I always felt a need to try and do what I could to try and represent folks who I knew were a little less powerful in the system. So as I went to college, I was quite clear about that. And then as I started getting ready to graduate, I thought, maybe I don't know so much about this. Maybe it would be cool to get paid to study for a little while, but I don't know that my heart's in it. And then I decided that I might be a police officer, of all things. And my family thought that I'd lost my mind, of course. But I thought, you could get paid to stay in shape, and you don't have to worry about what you're going to wear every day. That can work. That can work. And I thought about being a police officer because both like being an attorney and a police officer, I was very attracted to the idea of justice and equity and advocacy. And so my family was saying, why would you go from an attorney to a police officer? And that was really the thread. And it's the thread that really keeps me doing my work now. It looks a little different, but the work that I do in political science, I work with women who are politically violent, women who participate in paramilitary organizations, women who feel like their choices are so limited and or they've been ignored so much that equity and advocacy is never part of their picture. And so what I do with those women is to say, what's happening with you? How can we understand ways to make your lives better? And so that advocacy and justice theme has really kind of been the theme throughout my life. And I'm unbelievably thrilled to be where I am now, because very few women get to do this work in a very male-dominated field, which is political science and international relations, somewhat like law enforcement. So I love taking up as much space as I can in those environments, and I make the guys work for it. I make them work. So I'm very grateful to be here.
Thank you. So due to time constraints, we have one more question that one of our students would like to ask our panelists.
What is the most important advice you can give young women who are interested in your career field?
And whoever would like to start, can grab that.
I'll start. So there is no path. There is no career path when you're thinking of theater or maybe a film or television career. It's there. So the thing that anyone has to keep in mind is to have faith in their own abilities and to always strive to do better and to get training and to do better. Somebody asked us for a quote, and this is the quote that changed my life when I figured it out, I don't know, many years ago. And it has to do with an Eastern philosophy, which is that of isness. What is happening? That you need to look at what's going on in the moment with reality, not what you wish would happen, not what you hope would happen, but what is actually happening in your life, good or bad. And when you take a look at that and you go, I am an actress, and that means I need to get training, and that means I have to make decisions about college or conservatory. That means I have to look at myself and go, how are people going to see me and how are they going to cast me? Am I of color? Am I short? What is my weight like? What are the things I can change about myself? What are the things I can't change about myself? So I have to really know me, and I have to understand what is about me and what I have to offer, and then identify where I need to keep growing as an artist. And as your path goes, wherever it goes, and there's no way to know where it's going to go in theater, it's always about looking at it and going, what do I want my life to look at? What is my dream of my life, and how do I make that happen? Because if I'm not happy in my life, I am not going to be a good artist. I am not going to be able to represent people. I'm not going to be able to show people. I'm not going to be able to reflect our society. If I don't know who I am and work with that, I cannot do my job. And because theater is, because actors and people in theater, you grow. Like right now you would get cast as teenagers, but in 10 years you're going to get cast as a 20-year-old. And after that, because it grows, you have to always look at your life and be really aware of how you're evolving as a person and how you're managing your personal life and your professional life and what it means to be a voice in your field and in the society and how you're going to move that forward. But it always goes back to that isness.
I guess I would just say, don't let anyone ever tell you you can't do something, because you can. I mean, there's opportunity. Don't let people tell you that you're not capable of taking a career path. And again, it's not always a path. People ask me, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I don't know if I'll be a cop forever. I love to teach. I love to do different things. But don't let somebody stand in your way, or don't let yourself stand in the way by thinking that you can't do it, because you can. You just have to set your mind to it, to work hard. And that's not always fun. But work hard. Respect yourself. You don't answer to other people. And if you want to do something, you just got to go after it. Work hard for it.
My advice would be to stay open to possibilities. I would say when I decided to go in art, I left all the possibilities open, but I knew that was the place that was true for myself. That was the place where I was very sincere. It was my passion. And I say, I have to define success for myself in terms of not just economical, because choosing a field like that, I knew it will be kind of torturous, and it was. But because I choose to do something I really love, and I was really believing in it, and very, we are brought to a certain sincerity also when we're kind of so close to ourselves in a creative process, that at some point opportunities open. At some point I decided to do a master because I wanted to teach and not be just alone in my studio, but it was always this love of the creative process, the observation, the vision of the world that was allowing to expand. I was really deeply believing in it, and I wanted to share it, and I wanted to make it a reality for myself in my daily life. So I think it's very important to define, to don't be told what to do, and to find your own definition of success also, not just define it economically, but kind of as a growing process, and to stay open to it.
I would say be tenacious. Be tenacious not only in the sense that you're going to work hard, but be a tenacious advocate for yourself. Remember, when I was thinking about going to school, no one in my family has ever gone to college. They certainly didn't go get a PhD, and everybody else's families has PhDs, not mine. And I didn't think I could compete. I didn't think that, when I was going to school with people whose moms and dads had PhDs, and their grandparents and their great-grandparents, I mean, we just got here from Ireland. I don't know what I'm doing, right? So you have to be the best advocate for yourself that you can be. That means that demand that people help you, demand that you get help and information, demand from your mentors that you need help to get and to achieve what you want. But nobody's going to do that for you. Just know that. My quote is, if it was easy, everybody would do it. And that's what my dad would say. If it's easy, everybody would do it. Not everybody's doing it. So be an advocate for yourself, and don't let other people tell you that you can't do it because they are of a different sexuality than you, or a different race than you, or a different educational background, or a different class. That's all just silliness, and it's an excuse so that you don't compete with them.
And like Sandra just said, attitude is everything in life. If you believe that you're going to be a champion, you will be one. So believe in yourself and believe what you really love to do. If you're really going to love to do the job, whatever job is going to be, any path you're going to enjoy, and you're really going to be successful in that pace. And open opportunities. Everybody has an opportunity, but people close their eyes, I don't see it. Why? Because they're thinking about something completely different. Opportunities are always around. Learn everything possible you can learn, because you never know what path you're going. You can be thinking to go become a hairdresser, but it could be another opportunity and you will be a fantastic artist or whatever. Yeah, so but open to learn. Learn is a possibility, and also get back to the community, because that will be the best experience for you guys to see really what is a really everyday job. So if you get back to the community, you know what is there, what is. Volunteer yourself, be part of the community. There's a lot of opportunity. The city is offered, every place is open to students to come to see how we do our job, and you can learn from what area really you feel that you will love and continue.
Got practical advice and philosophical advice. Practical advice: internships. I can't tell you how many students graduate from college, they send me their resumes, and they have 0 internships, and they want to come work for the Boston Globe, or they want to intern at the Boston Globe, but they don't have internships. So intern, every opportunity that you have to do anything in the journalistic field, if you want to do it, do it. Even if it's not easy to work for free. I had to work for free, unfortunately, and figure out a way to scrape by, but you do it. I tell a lot of people sometimes, don't be afraid to take a left turn in order to go straight, which means I want to work for a newspaper, but the only opportunity that I have is to work for the website of a television station. do that, make the left turn, you will eventually circle back around and get on the path that you want. So don't be afraid to take that left turn. And my philosophical advice is a Dr. Seuss quote, which is my reporting philosophy, and it stays on my desk, and it's from the book If I Ran the Zoo. And it's, if you want to see beasts you don't see every day, you have to go places quite out of the way, which means sometimes you just have to go against the crowd, and you have to go to the place where no one else is going, and everyone thinks you are absolutely insane for even beginning to venture there. But that's quite often where the most amazing experiences in life, professionally, personally, happen. So get out of the way, go someplace where no one else is, and really kind of enjoy that moment.
I have to agree on both those parts. And if there's no opportunities for internships, volunteer. It may be called something else. In our field, in child life, it's all about experiences, because you might sound like, oh wow, that sounds great. But unless you're really in the mix of it, in a hospital setting, it might sound, and it's not like ER or Grey's Anatomy. Hate to break it to you. It wouldn't be, if you go into our emergency room right now, it's not must-see TV. Because, anyone who's been in an emergency room, you're going to wait a little bit, sometimes a lot. So it's not what you might see on TV or what's in the dramas. It's a whole different ballgame. I've gotten calls saying, oh, I want to do that. I know it's what I want to do. And I ask, have you ever been in a hospital? And there's like silence. And I said, I really strongly encourage you to volunteer, because there's lots of sights and sounds and smells. And then I had silence, and they had that reaction. Smells? Like, yes, there are body fluids in a hospital setting. There's lots of things that you might not think about. And even before you get there, because it is working with children, don't minimize what you've learned about kids by babysitting, by nannying, by, working in an after-school program or a Boys and Girls Club working with kids, because you have to know what normal, typically developing kids do and who they are before you can know how to support them in a very threatening and scary time. The other thing I always encourage people is to be really open to all the possibilities. Everything you experience can help you get to that final point. And I think a lot of the panelists have all said similar things, that even though it might not be your dream job or a dream experience, something about that can help you in the job that you find yourself in eventually. On my resume, when I first graduated from college, I didn't have not a lot to put on there. Didn't have a lot of, it certainly wasn't going to be 4 pages long, because didn't have a lot to say. But I had a summer job working at a service desk of a department store. You can only imagine the experiences I've had working with people. They're not happy when they come to the service desk. My first nurse manager, of all the typical child life things, she commented on that. And she said, if you could work with the public when they're really cranky and really mad and yelling at you, I want you on my team. So don't minimize those things that don't relate exactly to what that ultimate career that you want. They all can add to what you bring to the situation.
Okay, so everybody's giving you some really inspirational advice. I'm going to give you some really concrete advice. If you want to be a writer, read. Read novels, read nonfiction, read the newspaper, read anything you can get your hands on. I know a lot of young people who have really great ideas. They have terrific stories to tell, but they don't really have a fluent writing style because they haven't read enough books. They don't have a full command of idioms, the typical way that things are expressed in our language. So if you want to be a writer, the best thing you can do is read anything you can get your hands on. And it also will expand your base of general knowledge, which is terrific to draw on when you want to tell a story or report something. If you want to do public speaking like I do, do it. It's a terrific skill for any of these professions, being able to get up in front of people and communicate not just your ideas, but your personality. And there's a joke, I don't know if this is actual data, that people are more afraid of public speaking than death. It's really not quite as painful as death. So practice, use every opportunity you can to get up in front of people, find a way to relax and really put across who you are and what you want to say.
Can we get a round of applause for our So again, I just want to personally thank all of of you so much. As many of you may or may not know, March is Women's History Month, and that's why we do this particular panel in March, so that we can inspire our young women especially to see just the wonderfulness that's on this stage year after year. We have some pretty amazing women on the stage, guys, and I really encourage you, panelists, I'm going to get, I know a few of our students have some questions and answers. I'm going to get them and email them to you. I think it's a little more personable, actually, if the kids email you with those questions and answers that they have. But great pieces of advice, guys. Internships. We at Step to Success have summer internships and summer jobs that the students can partake in. Ms. O'Brien's not crazy after all, okay? So you've heard it from the women up here who have this experience and have this power and this knowledge. Definitely take advantage of that, okay? And take advantage of each other as women. I think something that I know I've talked a lot about with the girls group and just in general is that we as women have to support each other. We have to back each other. We are a sisterhood in amongst ourselves, even if we don't know each other, okay? Instead of putting each other down and criticizing one another as we do in our society these days, we need to lift each other and inspire each other. And if, again, the experience and the leadership on this stage does not convince you enough that you can do whatever you set your mind to and we can uplift each other, even if your grades aren't perfect right now, even if home life isn't that great right now, we all have stories, we all have backgrounds, we all have had struggles in our life, but what matters is the end result and how you push yourself to that finish line. So I encourage you to use what you've heard today, definitely communicate with our mentors on the stage in the future, and be what you want to be, and don't let anyone come in the way of that. Okay, so thank you again to our lovely panelists, and we appreciate it. Yes, thank you.